All right. Well, let's move on to our spotlight this week. This week we're going to be talking about Gnome Hollow, and we're going to do things a little bit differently. I've got a little bit more of a description here we'll go through as opposed to just the straight stats. Even though they are pretty colorful, these mushrooms are safe to eat, I think. In Gnome Hollow, players become gnomes tasked with completing fairy rings, harvesting and selling mushrooms, and planting flowers. With each turn, players will choose and place 2 garden tiles in the central game area, connecting white mushroom paths to create fairy rings. If a player completes a ring controlled by their gnome, they immediately collect all of the mushrooms from that path and then move the leftmost ring marker on their player board to claim a bonus based on the number of tiles that make up the newly formed ring. The larger the fairy ring, the better the rewards. And the more rings you complete, the more points you'll score at the end of the game. After resolving completed rings, players may move one of their 2 gnomes to take one of 4 additional actions. Players can claim a new mushroom path. Claiming a mushroom path allows you to collect all the mushrooms when completing the path. You can visit the flower market to collect a flower token you don't already have, and the more flower tokens you collect throughout the game, the more points you score. You can also visit constructed signposts created throughout the game. Some ring bonuses allow you to add signposts to completed rings, and gnomes can gain one-time bonuses for each visit. Lastly, a gnome can head to the central stump and visit the pinwheel market. At the pinwheel market, players sell the mushrooms they collect throughout the game. You may sell 2 different types of mushroom per visit. However, players can only sell each number of mushrooms once. For example, once somebody makes a sale for 5 red mushrooms, nobody else can sell 5 red mushrooms on their turn. And you better sell those mushrooms while you can, because they don't score points at the end of the game. The game ends when a player has gathered their 8th flower, moved their 8th ring marker, or the bag runs out of tiles. Players score points based on the number of flowers they've collected, the number of ring markers they've placed, and the treasure they earn from selling mushrooms throughout the game. Gnome Hollow is a 2 to 4 player family game from the op that plays in about 60 minutes. Besides bright and vibrant artwork, the player boards are magnetic, so you never misplace your ring markers. In addition, the deluxe upgrade pack, sold separately, replaces all of the cardboard tokens with screen-printed wood tokens. So what are you waiting for? Start growing a massive white beard and wander into the woods to forage mushrooms. This was published last year, and the designers are Aman Anderson and the artist is by Aman Anderson and Patrick Speziante, and for ages 12 plus, 10 plus, which I think is about accurate.
Yep.
All right. So, what do you like about the game, Michael?
I like a lot about the game. I enjoy. I mean, there's something very pleasurable about finishing the ring and then having that generate something, and then you got to move your character. So you're constantly having to move throughout this board, and the board is always evolving. I also really enjoyed playing this game with my kids.
Yeah.
There's quite the conversation if you get into Board Game Geek or other places about best fit for this game. I will tell folks this is still set up on my table next door. Even though, this segment is airing now, my kids don't want me to put the game away. They want to continue to play it. They want to come back to it. So for me, this is fun, and it works in a lot of different settings with a lot of different groups. And I like how the game evolves as the game goes on. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got an accessible and straightforward turn structure that I think really works well. The artwork and the world-building elements are very engaging when this is set up on the table. It encourages you to dive in. The magnetic boards are awesome. The way that those work in holding on to your ring markers, and the way that just a simple thing usually, nowadays that's done by a dual layer board, but the fact that they did magnetic really helps for table bumps and things like that. The scoring at the end of the game is dead simple. you just have the, on your player board, there's a chart that's basically how many flowers did you collect? It'll give you a point down there. How many ring markers did you use? It'll give you a point up there. Add those along with the treasures that you collected. That's
your score.
Super simple. So there's none of that. Okay, how many? I've got 8 of these, and that is this. Like, none of that. Those are pretty much just written on there, which I think
flowers plus route plus points. I mean, a 12-year-old can figure it out.
I think the upgrade components are really nice. I think they're more affordable than most upgraded components based on the number that you get. Like the idea of getting rid of all of the cardboard tokens in the game is awesome. As far as a couple of issues, I think there are some rules ambiguities, but I don't think that those show up in casual or family games.
I agree with that.
And I think if you're going into this with a super high competitive nature, they may come up and they may not. But if they do...
And then more things could also come up that are not always necessarily positive outcomes, such as analysis paralysis, such as undoing a turn to get perfect tile placement to make sure that you optimize your turn to get one added or yellow mushroom, right? So I think the approach to this game is key, and I think that's worth saying, especially if people have heard about this, if it's coming, back into your store, if it's around and you're looking at it. I would say make sure you have folks that have fun playing games like Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
Not where it's cutthroat arm wrestling and money on the line for it. And then the other thing, not to interrupt you, but I interrupted you, and I'll just finish interrupting you with, I agree, the wooden components are really nice. They increase the toy factor.
The downtime in this game can certainly be an issue. It is an interesting one with while you're placing those tiles. I don't know what it is about the paths, but you and I play a ton of board games and a ton of spatial board games, and I am a fan of spatial and tile placement. And it's like you're going to have to pick. It's very hard to look at the things on the board and then feel like, oh yeah, that's the one I need, and it'll go right there. You pretty much pick it up and you're like, oh wait, no, that's not going to make that connection. I need one of these. Oh wait, no, that doesn't make the connection. What kind of piece am I looking for? That's going to happen in this game.
Yeah.
And certainly with younger players. Now, if you're playing it, like Michael said, like with serious hobby gamers, that could get really annoying. However, sometimes players open up new options while they're playing, so that downtime, although it can stretch out depending on how you're playing the game, Michael may activate a new flower. Well, then now my gnome can go and get that flower, or put out a new signpost, and now my gnome can go over there. So it does, even though there is a slowdown sometimes, the options that are created because of that slowdown can make your turn better.
Well, and if you're playing with kids, if you're playing with your kids or with younger gamers, you have a chance to participate on their turn as well. Because it is a game that will require, in my opinion, okay, when I'm playing this game with my kids, it requires me to help facilitate their turns. Now, maybe after we've played 5 or 6 games together over a year, I'm not going to need to do that as much. Yeah. And it's not in the sense that I'm alpha gaming. It's in the sense that I need to be available to answer specific questions that come up in a game like this. And so why I mentioned that and why that's different, if I'm playing with our game group, I don't need to be available on your turn to help you with your rules. I'm just sitting there waiting for my turn. Yeah. Right? But if I'm playing with my kiddos or with my family and almost GMing and playing the game, I don't feel the downtime as much. The other thing that I'll say, this is a game that's available on Board Game Arena. So if you're going to a board game cafe or playing at a convention, you could learn a lot of the rules and get really good teach right there on Board Game Arena before you play it in person. I think that would help a lot of people. Yeah, I think too the last thing I want to say is when this game came out and it got kind of buzz on the Dice Tower and kind of the game almost as a gamer's game. And I think I went into this game with that kind of idea that this is going to be a little crunchy, or you're going to be able to
to get down and compete. And I think those expectations are wrong. I think this game shines in a family setting, intergenerational, with the idea of we're making a ruling and moving on type of an approach to this game, where if you're playing with gamers, it's going to be, oh, well, that threw off my whole strategy. I need a rules clarification, and if the rules clarification doesn't go the way I need it to go, my game is ruined, and I'm not going to win well. And it's like, I
and
think
then Doug's in the middle, trying to mediate the
Well,
child on his left
way.
and the child on his right who don't happen to be his child. Yeah, the only thing that I'll add into that, it does benefit from having a gamer at the table.
Sure,
because
yes.
of the different mechanics, right?
Yeah.
I totally agree, intergenerational. Totally agree. I could play this with my ma and with my kids, but I need to be at the table helping to move that game along.
Yeah, my 12-year-old is not going to be complaining about the ruling of this, whatever. It's going to be, all right, this is what I'm doing. And when kids are playing this game, they're more focused on creating cool paths and collecting mushrooms and getting flowers and doing all of the thematic parts of the game. And the scoring is almost secondary.
Yeah, or building homes for their gnome on the side with components from another game.
And I think that's where this game shines, and it's a great family game on that end. So that is our spotlight game from the op Gnome Hollow.